everybody. Happy Friday. It's Miss Shapiro, and I am here with our first edition of First Chapter Friday for this year. Before we get started with our book today, I wanted to talk to you for just a moment about my summer reading journey. I read some really good stuff. One of them was a book called James, which is the perspective of Jim from Huckleberry Finn. It was so good. I loved it, but it was a library book, so I had to return it. Another one that I read is called Endurance, and this is about Ernest Shackleton, and he was an explorer of the Antarctic. Crazy in the early 1900s, I believe. Yeah, it was right during the time of World War I. Insane. Their boat gets stuck in the ice, and they spend over almost 600 days out in the Antarctic, which is a terribly inhospitable place. I mean, I was like, oh, how can anyone do that? But it's a true story, believe it or not. They piece together their diaries. It's fascinating. So if you like nonfiction, that might be a good one for you. Another one that I read that I absolutely loved, even though I didn't know I liked mythology, was Circe. This book is where the author, Madeline Miller, she is a historian of mythology and, the Greeks and all that kind of stuff. So what she did is she took a minor character of Circe and based on one little mention in a little bitty paragraph in, mythology stories, she developed this whole book around this one character. It was so good. I loved this thing. I thought it was great. And then now, currently, I am reading a nonfiction book called Breath, which is all about the science behind breathing and how important it is to breathe through your nose. I mean, there's a lot of things there. It's really interesting. Anyway, so we're going to look at this book. It's called Guys Read, which I'm like, I don't love that title because I think it's for everybody. And it's called Other Worlds. And basically what it is a compilation of short stories. Now, I think I heard that some 8th graders are doing some short stories coming up, or maybe it's 10th grade. I don't remember, sorry. But anyway, really good collection from a lot of well-known authors. So I thought, going along with the whole Circe vibe of mythology, why don't we take a look at one from Percy Jackson? So this is Percy Jackson and the Singer of Apollo by Rick Riordan. I have not read much of his stuff, but he's very popular, and I hear that a lot of people like him, so here we go. Pardon my dogs. They're going to be doing all kinds of things during this recording, I'm sure. That was a yawn, by the way. I know what you're going to ask. Percy Jackson, why are you hanging from a Times Square billboard without your pants on, about to fall to your death? Good question. You can blame Apollo, god of music, archery, and poetry, also the god of making me do stupid quests. This particular disaster started when I brought my friend Grover some aluminum cans for his birthday. Perhaps I should mention, I'm a demigod. My dad, Poseidon, is the lord of the sea, which sounds cool, I guess, but mostly it means my life is filled with monster attacks and annoying Greek gods who tend to pop up on the subway or in the middle of math class or when I'm taking a shower. Long story, don't ask. I figured maybe I'd get a day off from the craziness for Grover's birthday, but of course I was wrong. Grover and his girlfriend Juniper were spending the day in Prospect Park in Brooklyn doing naturey stuff like dancing with the local tree nymphs and serenading the squirrels. Grover's a satyr. That's his idea of fun. Juniper seemed to be having an especially good time. While Grover and I sat on the bench together, she frolicked across Long Meadow with the other nature spirits, her chlorophyll-tinted eyes glinting in the sunlight. Since she was I think it's pronounced Dryad, I don't know. Juniper's life source was tied to a juniper bush back on Long Island, but Grover explained that she could take short trips away from home as long as she kept a handful of fresh juniper berries in her pockets. I didn't want to ask what would happen if the berries got accidentally smashed. Anyway, we hung out for a while, talking and enjoying the nice weather. I gave Grover his aluminum cans, which may sound like a lame gift, but that's his favorite snack. Weird. He happily munched on the cans while the nymphs started discussing what party games we should play. Grover pulled a blindfold out of his pocket and suggested pin the tail on the human, which made me kind of nervous since I was the only human. Then, without warning, the sunlight brightened, the air turned uncomfortably hot. 20 feet away, the grass hissed and a cloud of steam whooshed up like somebody opened a big pressing machine at the laundromat. The steam cleared, and standing in front of us was the god Apollo. Gods can look like anything they want, but Apollo always seemed to go for that "I just auditioned for a boy band" look. Today, he was rocking pencil-thin jeans, a white muscle shirt, and gilded Ray-Ban sunglasses. His wavy blonde hair glistened with product. When he smiled, the dryads squealed and giggled. "Oh, no," Grover murmured. "This can't be good." "Percy Jackson!" Apollo beamed at me. "And, your goat friend." "His name is Grover," I said, "and we're kind of off-duty, Lord Apollo. It's Grover's birthday." "Happy birthday!" Apollo said. "I'm so glad you're taking the day off. That means you have time to help me with a small problem." Naturally, the problem was not small. Apollo led Grover and me away from the party so we could talk in private. Juniper didn't want to let Grover go, but she couldn't argue with a god. Grover promised to come back safely. I hoped it was a promise he'd be able to keep. When we got to the edge of the woods, Apollo faced us. "Allow me to introduce the, oh no, Celadons." The god snapped his fingers. More steam erupted from the ground, and 3 golden women appeared in front of us. When I say golden, I mean they were literally gold. Their metallic skin glittered. Their sleeveless gowns were made from enough gilded fabric to finance a bailout. Their golden hair was braided and piled on top of their heads in a sort of classical beehive hairdo. They were uniformly beautiful and uniformly terrifying. I'd seen living statues, automatons, many times before. Beautiful or not, they almost always tried to kill me. I took a step back. "What did you say these were? Chrissy Kelly something?" "Celadons," Apollo said. "Golden singers. They're my backup band." I glanced at Grover, wondering if this was some kind of joke. Grover wasn't laughing. His mouth hung open in amazement, as if the golden ladies were the largest, tastiest aluminum cans he'd ever seen. I didn't think they were real." Apollo smiled. "Well, it's been a few centuries since I brought them out. If they perform too often, their novelty wears off. They used to live at my temple in Delphi. Man, they could rock that place. Now I only use them for special occasions." Grover got teary-eyed. "You brought them out for my birthday?" Apollo laughed. "No, you fool! I've got a concert tonight on Mount Olympus. Everyone is going to be there. The 9 Muses are opening, and I'm performing a mix of old favorites and new material. I mean, it's not like I need the Celadons. My solo career has been great. But people will expect to hear some of my classic hits with the girls. Daphne on My Mind, Stairway to Olympus, Sweet Home Atlantis. It's going to be awesome." I tried not to look nauseous. I'd heard Apollo's poetry before, and if his music was even half that bad, this concert was going to blow harder than Aeolus, the wind god. "Great," I said half-heartedly. "So what's the problem?" Apollo's smile faded. "Listen." He turned to his golden singers and raised his hands like a conductor. On cue, they sang in harmony. La! It was only one chord, but it filled me with bliss. I suddenly couldn't remember where I was or what I was doing. If the golden singers had decided to tear me to pieces at that moment, I wouldn't have resisted, as long as they kept singing. Nothing mattered to me except the sound. Then the golden girls went silent. The feeling passed. Their faces returned to beautiful, impassive metal. I swallowed. "That was amazing." "Amazing?" Apollo wrinkled his nose. "There are only 3 of them. Their harmonies sound empty. I can't perform without the full quartet." Grover was weeping with joy. "They're so beautiful. They're perfect." I was kind of glad Juniper wasn't within earshot, since she's the jealous type. Apollo crossed his tan arms. "They're not perfect, Mr. Sater. I need all 4, or the concert will be ruined. Unfortunately, my 4th Celadon went rogue this morning. I can't find her anywhere." I looked at the 3 golden automatons, staring at Apollo, quietly waiting for orders. How does a backup singer go rogue?" Apollo made another conductor wave, and the singers sighed in 3-part harmony. The sound was so mournful my heart sank into my gut. At that moment I felt sure I'd never be happy again. Then, just as quickly, the feeling dissipated. "They're out of warranty," the god explained. "Ooh, Hephaestus." I'm not best with Greek pronunciation, by the way. I'm sure you've caught on. Hephaestus made them for me back in the old days, and they worked fine until the day after their 2,000-year warranty expired. Then, naturally, wham! The fourth one goes haywire and runs off to the big city. He gestured in the general direction of Manhattan. Of course, I tried to complain to Hephaestus, but he's all, "Well, didn't you have my Protection Plus package?" And I'm like, "I didn't want your stupid extended warranty." And he acts as if it's my fault the Celadon broke, and says if I'd bought the Plus package, I could have had a dedicated service hotline, but... Whoa, I interrupted. I really didn't want to get in the middle of a God versus God argument. I'd been there too many times. "So, if you know that your Celadon is in the city, why can't you just look for her yourself?" "I don't have time. I have to practice. I have to write a set list and do a sound check. Besides..." "That's what heroes are for. Running the gods' errands," I muttered. "Exactly." Apollo spread his hands. "I assume the missing Celadon is roaming the theater district, looking for a sustainable place to audition. Celadons have the usual starlet dreams, being discovered, headlining a Broadway musical, that sort of thing. Most of the time, I can keep their ambitions under control. I mean, I can't have them upstaging me, can I? But I'm sure without me around, she thinks she's the next Katy Perry. You two need to get her before she causes any problems. And hurry! The concert is tonight, and Manhattan is a big island." Grover tugged his goatee. "So you want us to find her while you do sound checks?" "Think of it as a favor," Apollo said. "Not just for me, but for all those mortals in Manhattan." "Oh." Grover's voice got very small. "Oh, no." "What?" I demanded. "What? Oh, no." Years ago, Grover created a magic empathy link between us, another long story, and we could sense each other's emotions. It wasn't exactly mind reading, but I could tell he was terrified. "Percy," he said, "if that Celadon starts singing in public in the middle of afternoon rush hour..." "She'll cause no end of havoc," Apollo said. "She might sing a love song or a lullaby or a patriotic war tune or whatever the mortals hear." I shuddered. One sigh from the Golden Girls had plunged me into despair, even with Apollo controlling their power. I imagined a rogue Celadon busting into song in a crowded city, putting people to sleep, or making them fall in love, or urging them to fight. "She has to be stopped," I agreed, "but why us?" "I like you," Apollo grinned. "You faced the sirens before. This isn't too different. Just put some wax in your ears. Besides, your friend Grover here is a satyr. He has a natural resistance to magical music. Plus, he can play the lyre." All right, this is where I'm going to stop. But if you're interested, this is a book that is on Actively Learn. Your English teacher can assign it to you. It's called Guys Read Other Worlds. I hope that you guys have a wonderful Friday. Please do your best on your map test that's coming up. Can't wait to see the growth in those scores. And I hope you have a wonderful day and a fabulous long weekend.